Which is essentially what stand-up comedy is, isn't it? A bloke talking. Sexist.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Can I have a roll on the drums, please? Thank you. Yes, it's the secret of life at last.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. Who am I talking about? The great Ricky Gervais, of course. Now, there's been a bit of controversy, if you want to use a better term. I think, personally, it's a bit of a cliched word to use these days. Back in the 70s and the 80s, when a controversial comedian will be on stage and they'll say something to rile up the hate mob, of course, then there was no internet, so you kind of have to fuel your own fire, drive your imagination. Is it really as bad as it seems? Remember we used to get our CDs, our music, and it had that explicit lyrics label warning on the package itself, and you're so curious to know what would be the case when you put it into your CD player or on your traditional record player, what lyrics or profanities you might hear. In this case, the great Ricky Gervais, a man who still reignites the whole thing about being a fearless comedian on stage. And if you haven't seen his Netflix special, Supernature, I watched it this morning. Absolutely hilarious. It's just 1 hour and 4 minutes, but I was cracking up. My mum was probably thinking, what the hell is he laughing at so early in the morning? But wowee. So LGBT activists slam Gervais's new Netflix special due to jokes being made at their expense. Of course, yeah, because in the first 15 minutes, it's all about them, but then the rest of the act is about other subject matters Ricky discusses. It's kind of funny that they're getting crazy about the first 15 minutes. Now, I'm not going to read this article verbatim because it's pretty saucy, pretty fruity, and if I mention anything that triggers the algorithm, YouTube won't share this video in many places. But I've got to agree, and this is something I'm going to say that's controversial. I actually agree what Ricky Gervais said. Now, you've got to remember, folks, there's a difference between criticism and actual hate speech. Okay, in case you don't know the difference between the two, being critical of something doesn't mean you hate it. You can hate aspects about it, you can dislike things about it, whereas hate speech, it pretty much implies go and do this, go and do that. It's actually an order telling you to do things. Just imagine you're the Manchurian candidate in 2022, but you've been programmed by the wrong set of people to go and do something. Just imagine it's something like that. So, the latest Netflix special from comedian Ricky Gervais, called Supernature, has only been released on the platform for a few days now, and it's been labelled as transphobic by the progressive media. Of course, who else would it be? One of the jokes he talks about is where a trans woman will want to use the ladies' restroom or bathroom, and let's just say there are implications if you walked in and you're a non-biological woman and you get stared at by a biological woman. Do you know what I'm saying? That's where they're going with that. And look, and I've heard some creepy stories about that anyway. You can look that up for yourself. I'm not going to share those here, but the fact that if you're addressing the trans woman as a he instead of a she, that's where everything gets out of hand. And I thought it was hilarious what Gervais said. And even though he kind of went, well, I do support rights, blah, 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 he then still managed to slip in another inappropriate moment, which I thought was just great. And look, before I get to what my final thoughts about this, if you scroll down this article here from Bounding Into Comics, who again did a great job, and of course you get the usual Twitter mob here getting angry and hurt about Ricky Gervais. Oh, how can he say such a thing? How dare you talk about that? I used to be a fan of yours, but now you've let me down. But the transgender community has been on a crusade against any stand-up comedian that dares to make jokes about them. Earlier this week, Isaiah Lee, the man who attempted to assault Dave Chappelle during his recent Netflix Is a Joke performance, revealed that he was motivated to attack the comedian after being triggered by his jokes regarding the LGBT community. Yeah, I heard all about that. I didn't read into it. So if that was his motivation, well, the guy is probably as mad as a bag of hammers. And look, any comedian should be allowed to go on stage and just chat shit. It's why it's called comedy, ladies and gentlemen. You should be able to go out there and be taboo. Why has society come to the stage of where it now tries to censor how you think, how you feel, what you say? Gervais talks about this in his routine. He actually talks about it. He talks about why he's an atheist. He talks about the hurricane that took place in Oklahoma a couple of years ago. And it's just great. I mean, the man, yeah, some people have said it's the same old shtick that he does, but maybe perhaps some people want to hear the same old shtick. And yeah, I mean, there's this term called TERF, which was invented by the LGBT community, which is basically the notion that you do not accept a trans woman is a real woman. And I actually do agree with that. The same reason why Gina Carano was dismissed from Disney. And it's true. I don't believe they are, because a gender recognition certificate does not qualify you as being officially a man or a woman in transgenderism. It means you are still what you were before, but this certificate does not actually qualify that. It's the same thing with The Matrix from 1999. Now, I don't know if you know about this, but recently the Wachowski brothers, or one of the Wachowski sisters, I should say, there you go, I'm doing it now. This was actually at the beginning of this year, where they were saying, well, the film is actually about transgenderism, is a transition, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry to say, but when the film came out in 1999, we were talking about the weaponry, the look of the film, the music, everything else. Transgenderism was not a term I heard around in the 90s. So the fact that they're trying to retcon that narrative now by saying, well, it's all about this and it's all about that. No, well, if that's your viewpoint, Lala or Nana or Wana Wachowski, whatever your name is, doesn't matter. I've got my viewpoint, you've got yours. That is pretty much it. So folks, if you enjoyed this little video today, and by the way, when you do watch the Ricky Gervais special Supernature on Netflix, they've actually got a new rating. So you've got thumbs down, thumbs up, and a double thumbs up, which means did you love it? And of course, I clicked that one. So if I were you folks, I would check me out on my next video.
Soon someone's going to say, you can't say pedo anymore. It's a derogatory term. It offends people who are child addicted, right?
Women do not exist to be nice on the eyes for you.
The First Amendment and boobs. So those are the only two things I believe in absolutely in the country.